Right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's a great honour to be here and to be in front of such a distinguished audience. What I'd like to talk about today, or to get thinking, is how are we actually going to solve the problem of cyber insecurity? We spend our lives fighting against cyber threats, but I do like to think that this is actually a fight that will have an end. And at some point, we will arrive at a place, and hopefully within my lifetime, that actually we no longer need to have this conference. Don't tell Helen and Alison, but I do hope at some point we don't need to have virus bulletin conferences. But to get there and to get with some kind of map about how we are going to solve cyber insecurity, we need to take a very good look at where we are at the moment, where our strengths and weaknesses are, and also, to be honest, recognize just how well we do some of the things that we do. So, where are we? A couple of weeks ago, the latest edition of the National Risk Register was published by the UK government. I think just about every single government produces something similar, presenting the largest risks to the UK. And this publication has 191 pages in it, and I counted every one, 95 mentions of cyber, which means roughly every other page in this booklet describing the biggest risks that are facing the UK mentions cyber. We have one entire chapter devoted to cyber risks, and out of the 89 scenarios of things that could go horribly wrong for the UK, 15 of those are actually specific to cyber. So we're faced with this great risk of things that could go wrong for our societies, from our loved ones, for the society and the population in general, and this is what we're here to protect. This is what we do. Where I would like us to be is to consign cybersecurity to history. And where we should be, I would like my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren to look at what I do now with the same utter incomprehension that we look at witch finders of the 17th century. You know, this was an official job. You could get a government position as the witch finder general. It was a paid employment to go and find witches. And we look at that now, we think, bloody hell, what on earth were they thinking of? Now, we recognize that actually illnesses, it's not caused by the evil eye or the old lady who prefers to keep to herself. Similarly, bad harvests, equally, this isn't witchcraft, it's not magic. We know bad weather, bad farming practices, and over time, we've found those solutions that these problems of the past, we've found the solutions to those problems. We know that it's not witchcraft. We don't need witch finders anymore. How can we get there for cybersecurity? How can we make our jobs as obsolete as the witch finders? How are we going to do this? I think that there are three threads that we can follow. Firstly, it's going to be something about people, helping good people be good and stopping bad people be bad. Clearly, we need to think a lot about software and how to stop software going bad. And then that third bit, which I think we need to spend a lot more time about thinking, is driving good decision-making. Enabling people to make good choices about the things that they do. So firstly, let's think about people. And very firstly, let's think about users. Users, bless them. Look at that little face. How can you not love your users? From their point of view, those of us in the IT security, we do magic. We make their dreams come true. They come to us and say, I want an app, or I want to make this paper-based system more efficient and automated. And we do it. And from their point of view, yeah, it's magic. We make their dreams come true. In the cybersecurity industry, we keep them from harm. For most of our users, they really, really don't know what it is that we do, which is fine. They're focused on their own goals. They have their own objectives that they're trying to solve and find, and they're very, very eager in that. And that's part of the problem. They're so eager to solve their problems and achieve their objectives that, of course, they'll take shortcuts. Why wouldn't they? And here we get really at the crux of the problem. They have little clue about security. We can tell them easy and simple things that they mustn't do. Don't click the link. Some of them will hear the words, and the words will go in one ear and out the other, or there will be some kind of recognition and understanding. But in the grand scheme of things, of course your users aren't going to understand security. It's actually quite difficult. But what we can do is we can help them make good decisions. We can help them be safe because, let's face it, with those eager eyes and that keen face, they have relatively little understanding. But that's okay. We're the experts. We will do our job. What we can't fix is we can't fix stupid. There will always be bad guys. There will always be victims. This looks like something inherent to human nature. We're not going to be able to solve this. I have no doubt that not very far from here, probably a mile, probably less, someone on a street corner is playing this game, the shell game, or chase the lady. You'll have scammers set up a little cardboard board like this. They will have 3 cups or 3 shells. They'll put a coin under one, move them around, and you have to guess which cup the coin is under. First time you play, of course you'll find it. It was easy. You just followed what they did, where they moved the cups around. The second time, they'll offer, well, how about betting some money on it? Put the coin under the cup, move the cups around. You choose which cup the coin is under. You are guaranteed to lose. You will lose every single time. This is not a game, it is a scam. Yet still people play. What's more, it's a scam. It has always been a scam. We've had people playing it in the 19th century. It was a scam then. We've got people playing it in the Middle Ages. It was a scam then. We've also got evidence that actually this game was played in ancient Egypt. 3,000 years of this game being a scam, yet still people play. We cannot fix stupid, right? It's obvious you should not play this game. You are only going to lose. People have always lost, but they still play. So here is actually something that's probably inherent to human nature. We're not going to fix this. But we can understand how people fail. This is something that has been well studied and is understood. Human error is part of being human. We should not blame our users for being human. Humans do wonderful things. We're creative. We create things. We can come up with innovations and new ways of doing things. Human error is part of being human. And humans fail in predictable ways. One, faced with a problem or something that they intend to do, they will either do the right thing wrongly, or they will do entirely the wrong thing, but do that rightly. So in the case of people who are clicking the link, we tell them don't click the link, don't click the link. We have slips, which are attention failures. Someone's focusing on their task, they're trying to do something, they get an email pop up, what's this? Oh yeah, no, I'll click that. And then they have a problem. They didn't actually mean to click the link, they just lost attention for a moment. We have lapses, memory failures, where again, something crops up and they're looking at this and like, what is this? Just look at this. They forget. They forget that they're not supposed to click the link. Again, part of being human. We also have intended actions where they genuinely went out and set out to click that link. The first one, which comes up quite a lot, incorrect decisions. They thought it was genuine. And the scams that we come across relies on people thinking that it's genuine. And the one that comes up time and time again, violations. Knowingly doing the wrong thing because they wanted to find out what happens. What's the worst thing that can happen? I don't understand. Yeah, and people do this. We can't fix this. But we can keep temptation away. Faced with a nice, juicy link, a lure which is going to attract our users, we can keep temptation away. If we can keep that link out of their inbox and not have it in front of them, they're not going to be tempted to click or to fail in some way in clicking that. And I think it's important to recognize a bit of our successes here. When we look at phishing emails, the vast majority of them are blocked. We're actually, as an industry, really, really good at what we do. And even of those emails, the links within them, those phishing websites, again, the vast majority are actually blocked. Of course, we can't lose attention and we can't get complacent with this. But I think we need to take a moment to recognize we're actually pretty good at doing this. Where we do need to improve is, targeted social engineering, that mass market attack we're very, very good at detecting. When there's only 2 or 3 emails or 2 or 3 contacts, that's actually really, really tough. And we need to focus a bit more there. Similarly, where we don't necessarily have visibility of those attacks coming in, if they're coming in over social media or in instant messaging in some form, we're going to struggle with detecting that. And of course, we have the emerging issues of VISH, voice phishing. We don't have visibility of that, and that's a problem. But it's somewhere that we can work on it. We can. There is no reason why these areas of improvement can't be as successful as how we've managed with web-based phishing and also email-based phishing. Now let's consider authentication. I love this photo. Authentication has never, username and password has never worked. And I like to think in this in this photo, we have the gentleman in the middle. I'm sure it's the type of thing you'll come across every day. He's forgotten his password. He's trying to log into the computer. He's forgotten his password. We've got the bloke next to him saying, well, is it your pet's name? Is it your children's name? Can you remember where you put the post-it that you wrote it down on? And he's thinking, no, I don't know, can't remember. Bloke behind him with the glasses, he's ready for when he remembers the password. He's shoulder surfing, standing over his shoulder, ready to get the boss's password as soon as he types it in. And bottom left bloke, he's saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You can just use my username and password to log in. Again, what's the worst that can happen? Just use my credentials. And of course, in the top right, we've got those shadowy hackers in the corner. They've downloaded the password file months ago. They know his password better than the user. So actually, who are we protecting here? The bad guys already know the password. The guy in the middle, our user, is stumped. He can't log in. We're not necessarily protecting this guy from the bad guys. But we have had successes here. Now the majority of systems have moved to single sign-on, which makes life easier for our users. They only have one username and password they need to remember. It's also easier for the administrators if something gets compromised. We've got a single point where we can kick off the compromised user and reset the password. We've got multi-factor authentication, again, making it more difficult for those bad guys. Even if they've got the username and password, they can't use it without the user working with their authenticator. It's not perfect because we've still got the problem with Vish and people phoning up and saying, hey, I'm the help desk. Can you tell me the code from your authenticator, please? And people will fail. They're only human. We're going towards passwordless authentication, where actually we're authenticating the device and authenticating the user based on biometrics. You will know if you lose your laptop or you lose your phone. You will know that. You'll be aware of it fairly quickly in a way that you won't be if your password gets compromised. Losing devices is something that users are aware of. They will get in touch with the help desk. If their password gets compromised, they probably didn't know. And if the password file gets compromised, well, yeah, they're never, ever going to know. So this is something that I do think that we can solve. Another issue, workforce. We have never had enough people working in security. We don't have enough now. We've never had in the past. And let's face it, we're never going to have that in the future. The first ISC squared workforce study in 2015 identified that there was a lack of skilled practitioners. Fast forward a few years and there's hundreds of thousands of vacancies for security. Now, the last one that I found, we're talking about millions of vacancies in security. I mean, I think this is basically meaningless. We don't have enough people. We're never going to have enough. But what we can do is we can actually spread the load. We can train up people in other disciplines and help them have those cybersecurity skills that they need in order to get their jobs done and in order to share the load of what we do with them. We can also automate, and I think this really is the way forwards. We're getting the machines to fix themselves. And I'm sure the last thing you want is another presentation talking about artificial intelligence, etc. I'm sure we're going to have lots of those this week. But really, this is probably the way that we're going to go. Increased automation, removing the load from the analysts, from the security teams, getting the systems to fix themselves. But if we don't have enough people in the security workforce, we also have that same problem with the bad guys, with the shadow workforce. Similarly, they don't have enough staff. It's difficult to conduct threats. We need people to kick the threats off. We need people to engage with users that are trying to be compromised. We need people to engage in the money laundering. All of this requires people, and I'm certain that our adversaries also have big problems with recruitment and hiring staff. So here, clearly, there's an opportunity for us to solve part of the problem. If we can intervene early and spot people who are going off down the wrong path, intervene early, get them back on the right track, and most importantly, hold people to account. If you are a bad guy, yeah, really, we want to find you, we want to hold you to account, we want you to pay restitution for your crimes that you've done and just being accountable for your own actions. We've also got the possibility we can disrupt markets. Most economics research is about making markets more efficient and making it easier for goods to be bought and sold. We've got a very good study at Oxford University looking at how we can make criminal markets more complex and less efficient. If you're buying, selling stolen data, or you're buying, selling malware, how can we intervene in that market to make it less profitable and less efficient? And it turns out one of the best ways is to sign up to the market and say, don't deal with him, he's a Fed. Suddenly, the people that are buying and selling data or buying and selling malware are a lot more reticent to do it, and the market becomes less efficient. We can also do similar things with money laundering. This, I think, is the big weakness of the bad guys. If we can disrupt their money laundering processes, cybercrime becomes less profitable, less efficient. We get a worse return on investment, and hopefully they're more likely to go and get a real job and be beneficial members of society. Let's think for a moment about software. We are, as an industry, really, really good at detecting malware. Genuinely, seriously. I think everyone in this room, of course, it's not perfect. Of course, it could be better. Of course, we can't be complacent. But in the grand scheme of things, we're actually pretty good at this. Nevertheless, it is a continuously changing threat landscape, and our challenge is maintaining our awareness of what the bad guys are doing and staying equal to that challenge. It's not easy, it takes focus. This is why we have meetings such as this, to share the state of the art so that we can all learn. But in the grand scheme of things, we're actually pretty good at this. In fact, we're so good at detecting malware that lately we've seen the bad guys not even bothering with ransomware. That double extortion of threatening to release your data whilst it's been ransomwared at the same time, it turns out that actually we're pretty good at detecting ransomware. In fact, we're so good they don't even bother with the ransomware bit now. They just steal the data and threaten to release it. We're so good at detecting malware that we force the bad guys to use dual-purpose tools. Tools that aren't necessarily malicious. And the same with lolbins, living off the land binaries that come bundled with the operating system. Again, we've forced changes in the threat landscape because we're pretty good at detecting malware. We're forcing the bad guys to change their techniques, use other tools, other ways of achieving their ends, because we're pretty good at what we do. However, detecting all of this and detecting those supply chain compromises where the bad guys are including their malicious functionality in legitimate software, yeah, that's going to be tough. And still, it's going to be tough to detect the malicious use of otherwise ordinary everyday tools. So we really can't take our eye off the ball here, but yeah, we're pretty good. In fact, we're also so good that the bad guys are searching for systems where we're not running antivirus software or endpoint protection. They're looking for other devices that are connected to networks that have operating systems and spare CPU cycles and, of course, software vulnerabilities so that they can compromise these systems and use it as a point of ingress into the networks. I will say it's not only Cisco routers that are subject to these kind of attacks. There's an awful lot of it about. This is actually quite a large problem. So again, as an industry, we're going to have to expand our vision of what is a computer, what is it that we're trying to protect, because the malware, the attacks can go to just about anything which is connected to the internet. And let's face it, we really, really suck at writing software. You know, humans are not good at writing software. When we look at the CWEs, those weaknesses that are found in vulnerabilities, often it's exactly the same weaknesses that are coming up time and time and time again. Software engineers are just repeating the same mistakes and coding vulnerabilities into their software in exactly the same way. We can't fix stupid, but I think we have to recognize that actually, writing software is really, really tough. It's really tough to get the software doing what it is that you want it to do, but to be secure and never do anything else, yeah, that's another level. Again, we're going to need machines to do this. We need automated audit of code. We need automated identification of vulnerability at the source code level so that we can identify these same mistakes that we keep making time and time again, get those out of the software so that the systems that we're building are secure, or at least resistant to attack. And someday, quantum computing is coming. It is going to happen. It's either going to happen in the States, probably in Virginia, or in China. It will happen without fanfare. The people who are building these systems are not going to announce that they've managed to break every single encryption algorithm that we have at the moment. So we need to prepare for this. Not every encryption algorithm is vulnerable to quantum decryption, but we need to prepare for this, and we need to prepare for the systems that we are writing, that we can swap out the encryption algorithms when they become vulnerable. Sooner or later, this will happen. Let's prepare for it now. Decision making. Our CEOs, they can't plead ignorance. It's not like you can't know about breaches and about the consequences and the fact that, yes, you can lose your job as a CEO or a CISO following a breach. There's been enough major breaches that I cannot believe that any executive is not aware of the issues and the consequences of cybersecurity. And indeed, when we poll them, we can see that, actually, the companies that we poll, 82% of them are expecting a cyber attack within 12 to 24 months. So they're not ignorant. They're expecting that it's going to happen. So they're aware of this. This is a good thing, right? Well, you'd be surprised. When we ask further, and we ask about the maturity of their cyber posture. Okay, our marketing people use the terms beginner of cybersecurity posture, formative, progressive, and mature. I'd prefer the terms solely lacking or sorely lacking, and that's really a euphemism for absolutely hopeless. We've got nearly half fundamentally inadequate, pretty rubbish really, and only 35% that are actually getting somewhere, mostly adequate, and 15% that are actually doing really well, as good as can be expected. But if we take mostly adequate as just about good enough, and add that to as good as can be expected, 45%. We're not even at halfway with organizations having a suitable cybersecurity posture, despite 82% of them expecting a cyber attack. Only 45% are actually prepared. We are not getting through. Too many organizations are making too poor security decisions. They know the risks. The executives know the risks. They know the consequences, but they are choosing to remain vulnerable. And this is one thing I really don't understand. Why are they choosing not to invest in their cybersecurity posture, but choosing to remain vulnerable? Maybe this is an issue where we can't fix stupid. I don't know, but I do think that we can do a lot better here. Possibly through changing the language. Possibly we should be looking at this from a public health point of view. We've had massive successes over the past 50 years in curbing smoking through public awareness and making people aware of what the risks are and what it is that they need to do. Australia had enormous success in reducing skin cancer rates with their slip, slap, slop campaign in I think it was in the 1980s. Slip on a shirt, slap on a hat, and slop on sun cream. And this very simple campaign had massive effects on their rate of skin cancer. So we can change behavior, but maybe we need to present things in another way. And possibly we need to look at this in a completely different way and express cybersecurity in accountancy terms. It's the accountants, the chief financial officers who are allocating budget. They're not prioritizing cybersecurity. It's not something which easily enters into their ledgers. We're not expressing what we do in terms that financial officers can understand. And maybe this is something that we need to work on, expressing what we do, unfortunately, in dollars and cents and return on investment, and try and help executives make good, justifiable decisions. Cyber insurance is both part of the solution and part of the problem. Very much part of the problem, because I think there's a perception by executives that actually, well, the insurance will sort it out. We don't need to invest more in actually fixing these difficult solutions, or these difficult problems that we have in the organization, because we've got insurance and yeah, that'll solve the problem. Many companies are choosing to buy that insurance rather than actually fix the problem. So yeah, that's why it's an issue. It's also part of the solution because the insurers have the data that we need. What leads a company to be susceptible? What are the companies that aren't getting hit by breaches doing, which is different from those that are getting hit? There's a difference between the two sets. What is that? The insurers have that information, and we can drive good behavior through targeted premiums in the same way that you get a different life insurance rate if you smoke or if you don't smoke. Hey, maybe we can do the same thing for cybersecurity. If we can find the solutions that's really making the difference, we can encourage people to make the right decisions. But also, we need to think about this in the context of, cyber war. We may be in a position that no matter what you do, you're still going to be subject to very, very sophisticated attacks. We do need to share the intelligence across the industry with what we're seeing, how to react against it, how to detect it, how to resolve that. And this is something all of us can do and all of us can help with. So to try and sum this up in some way, firstly, we need to recognize just how far we have come. You know, let's look back to the very first Virus Bulletin Conference, 1991, and think about that signature-based malware detection that we had at the time, and that was all there was. And now think about your own work and all of the tools and all of the detection systems that we have available to us. We have come an enormously long way. And I like to think over the next, 22 odd years, we can go that same distance again. We can solve this. We do need to keep going, and we need to focus on those issues where we're not doing quite well enough, or where we can do better. Reaching that finish line so that we can make ourselves obsolete and all go home and go different things, we need to keep the bad stuff away from users. We can't put temptation in their way. This is something that we are good at, but we need to keep doing it. We also need to disrupt the bad guys, make life difficult for them. It's unfair that they're continuously making life difficult for us. Let's take the battle to them and make life difficult for the bad guys. There's going to be many, many different ways that we can do this, but the more that we actively disrupt the bad guys, take down their command and control infrastructure, take down the networks where they're hosting their malware, where they're distributing their attacks, make life difficult for them. Again, hopefully they will give up and they will go and do something else. We've got to look for stuff in unusual places. Because we're good at what it is that we do, the bad guys are looking for new areas to launch their attacks, to compromise, to achieve their objectives. We've got to keep on the ball with this, and we've got to look for where else the bad guys might be looking to compromise. We've got to admit, software engineering, it's really, really difficult, and we're going to have to inspect code automatically. Doing it manually, doing it by eye just isn't working. So we're going to have to develop those systems to identify those weaknesses and those vulnerabilities automatically. Stop the humans making human error here. We've got to change our perception of CEOs and CFOs so that they can make the right decisions, so they can invest in cybersecurity and deploy those systems that we develop that's actually going to protect them and bring their security posture forwards. We're going to have to change our language, change the way that we express things here. And I think most importantly, we've got to build that community and help and support each other and realize we're all united against a common foe. And we're only helping the enemy if we don't share. So share information, share everything you know, work together, and we might actually be able to solve this. So I'm not going to pass up the opportunity of talking to an audience like this without pointing out I wrote a book. I wrote what I like to think is the definitive textbook for cyber threat intelligence. It's the textbook that I wanted to find when I started working in threat intelligence 20-odd years ago, and I didn't find it, and eventually I thought, well, I've just got to write this myself. If you have a burning desire to write a book, please get in touch, and I will put you in touch with my editor. She would love to hear from you. If you have a vague feeling that someday you might like to write a book, I would invite you to reflect on the 2 years of evenings and weekends and missed social opportunities that were invested in this, and maybe suggest that there are better things to do with your time than write a book. But if you do have that burning desire and you're absolutely going to do it, get in touch, and I'll put you in touch with my editor. Also, I don't get allowed out without mentioning all of the various things that we produce at Cisco Talos. I would encourage you to read our blog where we publish our latest research reports. We've also got our newsletters. We've got various white papers that we produce as well. We try and share everything that we can and support the industry as a whole. And with that, 5 minutes in advance, I will thank you very, very much indeed. And thank you for listening. Thank you.